The Indianapolis Motor Speedway is one of the most well-known racetracks around the world. It plays host to one of the crown gems of motorsports, the Indy 500. It also plays host to NASCAR's Brickyard 400, and in the past has hosted F1. This weekend, though, it'll be known for Imsa as the series heads to the track for the 6-hour-long TireRack.com Battle on the Bricks. Indy is the newest stop on the Imsa calendar, having just been re-added back to the schedule for the 2023 season. However, there will be a very big difference in what this race looks like this year compared to last year, as this year's race will be much longer. Actually, more than twice as long, as the 2-hour and 40-minute format that was used for last year now becomes a 6-hour endurance race in 2024. Now, one aspect that we were potentially going to see with the switch from the 2-hour and 40-minute race to a 6-hour race was the possibility of racing into the night. Last year, Imsa trialed the Michelin Pilot Challenge while running under the lights, but with the track not being equipped with permanent lights like, for instance, Daytona has, then it looks like the decision was made to just run this event exclusively during the daytime. Now, while Indianapolis is largely known for its oval, there are only a very few small sections of the oval that are actually going to be used on this 14-turn, 2.4 mile or 3.9 kilometer road course layout. The majority of a lap actually takes place on the infield, where there's virtually no elevation change, and overall it's just a very flat racing surface. And with this layout, there are still some very good passing opportunities, most notably at the end of the front straightaway heading into turn 1, as well as after the long back straightaway heading into turn 7, and you could also see an overtake or two of cars diving up the inside heading into turn 12. Now, last year we saw some good battles in the 2-hour and 40-minute format, and I expect that to be even more this year with the change to a 6-hour format. And in amongst all those battles, there are a few things that I'm going to be watching for in this race. First of all, the championship battles in some of these classes are really heating up. In LMP2, we have a 4-way dogfight for that championship, with just 2 races remaining. And honestly, the way that they've been going this season, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another car or two potentially jump up into the mix. Here it is the 52 Inter-Europol by PR1 Matheson Motorsports entry who leads the way ahead of the 74 Riley, the 18 Era Motorsports entry, and the number 2 United Autosport entry. Now, all of these entries have been pretty evenly matched, I think, over the course of the season, but one thing that could really set an entry apart here in the final 2 races, with both of those final 2 races being Endurance Cup races, are the third driver that these teams employ. Now, the Endurance Cup drivers, as they're also known as, for these cars include Tom Dillman in the 52, Josh Burden in the 74, and Nico Pino in the number 2. But the one that I'll be keeping a very close eye on is Connor Zilic in the 18 Era Motorsports entry. Despite just turning 18, Connor's resume has been pretty darn impressive from this year. Of course, he started off the season by winning the LMP2 class at the Rolex 24 and backing that up at Sebring with another class victory. That win streak was broken at Watkins Glen, although only somewhat, because Connor didn't even get to turn a lap in the car under race conditions, as that car had already retired pretty early on in the race. But then to top things off, last weekend he won in his debut Xfinity Series race in NASCAR. The kid has some serious talent, and he's going to play a big role in the LMP2 championship hunt here as the season winds down. Now, there are numerous entry list notes, and I'm going to talk about more of them in just a moment, but first there was one that really stuck out to me. And that's the last minute change of the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin from the GTD to the GTD Pro class. Now, this switch comes after the 27 was stripped of its second place finish in class at VIR due to having non-homologated parts on the car. And really, that effectively killed off the very remote chance of the Heart of Racing grinding back into the GTD championship battle. So I think that may have helped trigger this move of the car to the GTD Pro class. But this switch from the GTD to the GTD Pro class also has a couple of other trickle-down effects. For starters, the entry will not be able to return to the GTD class for the season-ending Motul Petit Le Mans, so it's very likely that this change will stay in place as well for the season-ending round. It also means that there are some driver shakeups that come along with this. Ross Gunn and Alex Riberas, who have piloted the 23, will remain in that car as they battle for the GTD Pro Championship, but meanwhile Roman DeAngelis and Mario Farnbacher will stay in this new GTD Pro entry. Effectively, this leaves Zach Robichon and team principal Ian James as sort of the odd drivers out in all this. Although with Petit Le Mans just around the corner and it being a 10-hour race where these teams will use a third driver, I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in one of the cars for Petit Le Mans. But this probably begs the question of why is this move even significant? Well, of course, the heart of racing is gearing up for a dual hypercar and GTP program next season with their all-new Aston Martin Valkyrie. What we're seeing very well could just be an opportunity to test some new driver lineups that could potentially be deployed in that Valkyrie next year. Now recently, Sportscar 365 reported that after a discussion with team principal Ian James, that several current Heart of Racing drivers are likely going to be a part of that hypercar lineup. This story is definitely worth following, not only here for the round at Indy, but also for the season finale at Petit Le Mans. Now there are even more storylines that you can follow along with in the race this weekend that I put together in a recent episode for you, but I'm also going to be sending a bonus thing to watch for in the Indy pre-race edition of the S's newsletter. You can subscribe to that by clicking the link in the show notes or heading to offinthes's.com. Now taking a quick peek at the weather here, and it doesn't look like rain is going to be a big factor. As a matter of fact, there's no greater than a 30% chance of showers at any point this weekend. And the temperatures, well, they look to be pretty toasty as well, as things will range from the mid 80s to the low 90s Fahrenheit, which is about the high 20s to the low 30s Celsius. Now boy oh boy do we have some BOP things to talk about here, a ton of changes both in the GTP class as well as the GTD classes. But starting off with GTP, we see a slight weight increase for the Acura, but otherwise very few changes for them. Looking at the BMW, another small weight increase, but we do see a 7 kilowatt maximum power increase and 7 megajoules of additional max stint energy. Cadillac doesn't see any weight increase, but does get 5 additional kilowatts of maximum power and 5 megajoules of stint energy. Compared to where they were at Watkins Glen, the Lamborghini loses a kilogram of weight while also gaining 7 kilowatts of maximum power and 7 megajoules of energy. And then finally, Porsche. They are going to be 3 kilograms heavier than they were at Road America, but also gain 6 kilowatts of maximum power and 6 megajoules of stint energy. Looking at GTD now, and Acura does have a slight fuel capacity change, but the big noticeable one here is an 11 horsepower reduction through a turbo adjustment for them, so a significant loss of power for the Acura. They're not the only ones with a loss of power here for Indy, as BMW, in addition to being hit with a 4-liter reduction in fuel capacity, will also lose about 9 horsepower with a turbo adjustment there. The Ford Mustang will also be down about 7 horsepower as well, through a 1mm smaller air restrictor. And then we have Mercedes, a car that is already fairly strong around this track, and they will actually gain a slight increase to their air restrictor diameter of 0.5 millimeter, which translates to about 7 additional horsepower. This weekend, we're going to see a whopping 56 entries take to the grid, which is an increase of 8 from where we were last year. GTP sees 11 cars take to the grid, an increase of 1. LMP2 will see 10 cars on the grid, an increase of 3 from last year. GTD Pro will feature 13 entries, which is a whopping increase of 8 from this race last year. And GTD will see 22 entries on the grid, an increase of 5 from last year. Now, along with these grid size increases comes quite a few entry list notes. Of course, in GTP, we get back to the nice 11 entry mark as the SC63 returns, with it being an Endurance Cup round. Now, there was a possibility that we could have seen the other Lamborghini jump in for this Indy event, but unfortunately, earlier in the summer, Lamborghini confirmed that there would only be the single SC63 here present. So unfortunate that we don't have the 2 SC63s, but at least we still have one. In LMP2, a notable absence for the number 33 Sean Creech Motorsports entry, as the only Ligier on the grid will not be present. This unfortunately comes after Lance Wilsey announced that he'd be stepping back from racing. In GTD Pro, well, of course, we're going to see the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin join this class, as we mentioned earlier, but we're also going to see the return of some Endurance Cup entries, such as Iron Lynx, Risi Competizione, and a car that we haven't seen since Daytona being the Sun Energy 1 Mercedes. And in GTD, while of course we're notably missing the 27 due to the class change, we do have plenty of familiar names returning. The 43 Andretti Motorsports Porsche returns, along with Kelly Moss bringing a Porsche back onto the grid. The Lone Star Racing Mercedes returns, and they're actually also bringing a Mercedes GT4 to enter into the Pilot Challenge race with. But there's also some pretty significant news here, and Inception Racing, they are switching from McLaren, which they've run for the last couple of seasons, to a Ferrari 296. Now, the team has been able to test the car at COTA, but this car will still be brand new to them, and they'll certainly want to get up to speed quickly here, as they are right in the thick of it for the Bob Aitken Bronze Cup Award, which, of course, the winner gets an automatic invite to Le Mans the following season. Now, going back in time to this race last year, 113 laps were turned by the victorious number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsports 963 of Nick Tandy and Mathieu Jaminet in the GTP class. The number 11 TDS Racing entry of Stephen Thomas and Mikael Jensen took the LMP2 honors, while the number 79 WeatherTech Racing Mercedes took the GTD Pro win with Denny Hunkadea and Jules Gounon. And in GTD, it was Windward Racing who took the win with Russell Ward and Philippe Ellis. In terms of my picks for the weekend, I think it's really difficult to not go with Porsche in this situation. They were really strong here last year, and up to this point in the season, they look even stronger this year than they did last year. But I've got a weird feeling about the number 25 BMW M-Team RLL entry. This is a home race for that team, and in what's been a really tough season, I think we could see that team really look to build some momentum in this race to carry forward with them into next year. So yeah, give me the 25 BMW. In LMP2, I mean, this is probably honestly the most difficult class to pick a winner in. But give me the team that has been close this year. They've been really strong in the points. They just haven't been able to pick up that win, and that's the number 74 Riley Motorsports entry. In GTD Pro, well man, the GTD Pro grid is a lot larger than it was last year. As we talked about a minute ago, it's more than doubled what it was last year. I think it's going to be really difficult to go against Heart of Racing with what they're trying to push towards with that GTD Pro Championship. I mean, Ford has also been coming on really strong lately, and they've also made some really strong progress with that car. But then again, I have this funny feeling that this track is going to play right into the hands of Pfaff Motorsports. Now, McLaren wasn't exactly strong when they visited this track last year, but much like Team RLL, Pfaff is looking for some sort of momentum to carry forward into next year, and I think this will be a big race for Freddie and the team. GTD is the easiest one by far to pick a winner from, in my opinion, and I'm just going to be going with Windward Racing. Sure, Mercedes didn't exactly dominate, I guess, in the race last year, although they picked up both of the class wins, but they were extremely strong in this race. You have to be to pick up both of the class wins, and they have a very similar VOP to what they had in this race last year. So look, give me the Windward Racing Mercedes, strong team, a track that looks to play really well with that Mercedes, and let's just tack another one in the win column for Windward. Time to take a look at the point standings now, presented by P1 Web Development. If you're looking for a custom website, then look no further than P1 Web Development. You can check them out by clicking the first link in the show notes or by heading to p1webdevelopment.com. In GTP, it's number 7 Porsche Penske Motorsports 963 leading the way with 2,386 points. That is a 100-point advantage over their sister car, the number 6 Porsche. The 01 Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac is in third, 185 points back, followed by the 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac, and rounding out the top 5, the number 40 Wayne Taylor Racing Acura. In LMP2, it's number 52 Inter Europol by PR1 Matheson Motorsports entry leading the way with 1,564 points. That is just a 27-point advantage over the 74 Riley Motorsports entry. The number 18 Era Motorsports entry is in third, 91 points behind, followed by the 2 United Auto Sports entry, who are 97 points behind, and rounding out the top 5 is the number 22 United Auto Sports entry. In GTD Pro, it's number 77 AO Racing Porsche that still paces the pro field with 2,519 points. That is a 17-point advantage over the number 23 Heart of Racing Aston Martin. The number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW is in third, 111 points behind, followed by the number 14 Lexus, and rounding out the top 5 is the number 3 Corvette. And in GTD, it's number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes leading the way with 2,718 points. That's a 284-point advantage over the number 96 Turner Motorsports BMW. The 32 Korthoff Preston Mercedes is in third. The number 34 Conquest Racing Ferrari is in fourth, Rounding out the top 5, the number 12, Vassar Sullivan Lexus. There's plenty of support series racing also going on this weekend in Indy, and it all gets kicked off on Friday with the first of 2 races on the weekend for the Porsche Carrera Cup North America. That race gets underway at 2:55 p.m. Eastern Time on Imsa TV and Peacock. Following that up at 3:55 p.m. is race 1 for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, also on Imsa TV and Peacock. Flipping the calendar over to Saturday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time will be the final race for the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, available on Imsa TV and Peacock. Then at 1 p.m. it's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway 120 for the Michelin Pilot Challenge, which gets underway at 1 p.m. on Imsa TV and Peacock. And then at 3:35 p.m. Eastern Time on Imsa TV and Peacock is qualifying for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, before rounding out the day at 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series and their last race of the North American season, which you can catch on Imsa TV and Peacock. On Sunday, the final race of the weekend gets underway at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the TireRack.com Battle on the Bricks. You can catch the entire race on Imsa TV, Peacock, or Imsa's YouTube channel, and the final 3 hours of the race will also be shown on NBC. You can also watch along the second half of the race with me right here on YouTube. I'll be going live right around the halfway mark of the race and also be sticking around after the checkered flag to do a little bit of post-race analysis. So if you have any thoughts or questions after you see the race on Sunday, feel free to drop by here either during the race or after the race and we can talk about it. Now, Indy will represent the penultimate round of the IMSA season, but we're already seeing plenty of announcements coming out about the 2025 season and beyond. And these are huge announcements, like Hyundai announcing that they would be building an LMDH car, which you can conveniently learn all about right here. Huge shout out to all of the channel supporters. If you too want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/offintheesses or click the join button below. Once again though, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.